grateful for this. Has brought me an enlightened history.
What's up, Alvy? Hello. Been reading about the Wuchang disaster. They've already issued an apology for the game barely working. It's like nothing changes. I had some mild interest in that game, and then I saw like 20% of the reviews for that game are positive. That scared me away. So there will be no Wuchang Fallen Feathers on this channel. They don't try to make games that work anymore. They make games that barely function. And then get surprised when they get overwhelmingly negative reviews. At some point, things are going to have to change. Starting to feel like the people making those decisions are insane because it just keeps happening. They're promising a patch later. It's like, cool, then like, why should I play the game now? Patches are... Being able to patch games is a blessing and a curse. It definitely felt like games were better made at launch when you couldn't patch them. Now, of course, in a modern game dev's defense, games are a lot more complex now, but it does really feel like back then you didn't have as many game-breaking bugs. It was very rare for there to be something that would completely break the game, and now it's like common. And I guess it's because you can erase that it ever happened. I've talked about my experiences buying, you know, smaller games at launch and having like major problems, and then they fix them and people forget that it ever happened. And I think that's part of what's causing this cycle of games not working, and then like, oh, maybe we'll fix it later if we feel like it. And if they do manage to fix it, then people forget that it was ever broken. But I'm glad gamers are calling that shit out. I think it's definitely warranted. They want to charge us more and more for these games, and they work worse. Yeah, see, I don't play those kinds of games, so it doesn't affect me, but the implications of it are really bad, that they can just stop making something available for sale because they feel like it, and that's not a good thing for anyone. A lot of people are very dismissive about it, like, oh, I don't play those smut games. I'm like, well, it's not really the smut games that's the problem. It's the fact that they could just make it so you can't buy something because they don't agree with it. That is the problem. And it definitely will impact more normal, less gooner games like this in the future if things don't change. And that right there is the issue. I talked about my experience going on DL site to get those shmups, Battle Traverse and Stella Vanity, and them having mountains of porn on there. I wasn't really into that. I'm like, I just want cool shmups. I'm not here for smut, but yeah, that's not a good thing for anyone. I don't think anybody should be ignoring how bad it is that that's happening. real problem. Doing no damage. Gotta go back to town. That was a good run. No complaints there. HP stat bloating in this game is really bad. Things just take way too long to kill after a while. I'm confident I could finish the game this attempt, though. Well, if it's a positive build that affects the common person in any positive way, then it won't get passed, because that's just how those things work. I wouldn't bet on that. They never want to pass anything that benefits us in any way. I'll do anything but allow a regular person to have anything good. Alright, so I gotta optimize this build somehow, because the stat bloat in this game is out of control. Things just stop taking damage after a while. It's actually really annoying. I feel like they should, like, increase their damage, but make them have less health. I really think that's what they need to do with this game, because it's very strange that you go up like one floor and their stats just go through the roof. Like, I really don't understand what the purpose of that is, besides just drawing out playtime. That seems like the real reason. They want to pad it out as long as possible, but it's just not fun fighting walls of HP. I've also gotten, like, really shit RNG this run. I haven't gotten really anything that great. Lightning damage should help a bit, I guess, but I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make. Alright, is there anything in here that will give me a big damage spike to counter the massive stat bloats? Anything in here that will help, like, at all? Oh, this is doing nothing for me. All this is kind of bunk, too. Got 2 points. There's got to be something in here worth getting. Survivability is actually, like, not bad. It's mostly just that they have way too much health. Classic video game problem of, let's just give them more health. None of this up here really helps either. Go ahead and take this. I'm gonna go for these orbs. They could, like, lower the HP of these enemies by, like, 30% and the game would still be challenging. That's the problem with this game right now, is the stat bloat, like, literally just happens over the course of, like, a second. You go up a floor, and everything feels like it gets, like, 10 times more health. There's been people talking about how they're playing on relaxed mode, and they can fight a boss for 20 minutes. Like, why don't you just, like, increase their damage a little bit, and then, like, as a compromise, give them, like, 30 to 40% less HP, and the game would be exciting again. But the problem with this endgame mode is you just don't get the stuff that you want. You're very limited by RNG, and the constellations do help to a degree, but I could definitely be doing more damage. It's not entirely a skill issue, it's a luck issue. A lot of it is just luck. There's the one that makes it so that you do like 50% extra damage with melee moves, but it hasn't dropped, so I can't use it. And like the stat bloat forces you to put stuff like that on. You have to get the right rolls, and there's just too much RNG. It feels like a mobile game in some ways. You know how all the mobile games have that Genshin Impact artifact system, which sucks and is way too random, and it's totally just there to keep you playing. It doesn't really, like, actually add anything good to the game. That's kind of how this feels. There's way too much RNG. And then the fact that they limit how many runs you can do, I think also makes it worse, because you have to get the right stuff quick. But you don't really have a lot of control over it, and even if you get the one that you want, that enables or enhances the build, it still has to roll good stuff too, and if it doesn't, then you're fighting a boss for 20 minutes straight. They said that there's supposed to be a bigger patch later this week. I'm like, I hope that they will fix stuff like that, because this is a good game, but I don't know, stat bloat is just not the way. I feel like you could kind of run with whatever it gave you a little bit more, or a lot more, if the stat bloat didn't get to like Dragon Ball Z levels where everything has like 1 billion HP. The last boss in this game literally does have 1 billion HP, so if your stats aren't on point, you're either going to run out of time or be there for 20 minutes. They really need to fix stuff like that. It's not at all engaging. It's not fun because it doesn't feel like you're building right. It's like, it's not necessarily that you're you're not building right. It's that the stat bloat is too high. And it's at odds with the way that the RNG works, where you just won't get what you want. If you're going to limit how many runs I can do before the whole thing wipes, then I would argue that there should be some way to mitigate it somehow. Instead of the way it is right now, it's kind of like a mobile game. Well, the campaign is like that. This endgame mode has this limit on how many runs you can do, which feels very arbitrary because a lot of it is not skill. And like the time mechanic really forces you to get damage, but you know, sometimes damage doesn't drop. There just won't be any damage. Neighbor's calling. Hello, what's up? I would love to help you, and I do have some money, so I'd like to get something to eat, but my aunt is finishing up feeding the cats right now. Can you wait a little bit? I don't think it will be much longer, but yeah, I can accompany you and help you lift everything. You need some logistics help? Alright, maybe I'll just, we'll just get something nearby, and then, probably after we go to Walmart, and then I can help bring all your stuff in. Alright, I'll give you a call when she's done. Bye. Alright, I'll come over when she's done. Bye.
This artifact shall aid me in vanquishing the enemies of Monte Santo.
Alright, change of plans. Change of plans. This is going to affect you guys. I don't know if you guys could hear the phone call. I forgot to mute, but it wasn't any personal information. I have to go help my neighbor, like immediately after this run. So, but I should be back after. I do want to try to finish this before I go to work tonight. So, whenever this run ends, I gotta stop. She is handicapped and elderly. Her husband is not available, so I gotta be the man who steps up and help her. So, whenever this run ends is when the stream ends. I wasn't expecting to get a call, but that's fine. I can go get something to eat. I got no complaints. If you don't do it in the amount of runs it takes, it says, then the whole thing resets, which is part of the problem, because sometimes you just don't get good stuff. And you see how much HP they have. Like, no amount of skill is really going to help here. It's damage. The clock mechanic feels fine. It feels fine until you get to like Act 2 and Act 3, and then the stat bloat and the clock are at odds with each other, which is really weird because it's such an easy thing to fix. If they gave the enemies less health, I feel like the clock would be a little bit better. The problem with the clock is it conflicts with the stat bloat, and that sometimes You'll die because of the clock, but you're more than capable of clearing the game. Or at least getting farther than the clock allows you. I definitely think the stat bloat like directly affects the other mechanics of this game, because there's been times when I turned off the clock because of these reasons. But there are times where I had the clock on and I die because there's no time, and it's like, I'm not playing bad, I'm not making the wrong decisions, it's just the stat bloat is too high and I'm not getting damage. So I think they need to address the stat bloat more than anything, and that will fix most of the problems with this game. The optimization is still poor, there's other things wrong with it, but the clock doesn't feel very well tested for how much stats the enemies get. They get an insane amount of HP. It's not gradual either. I think that's also the issue. Usually stat bloat in games like this where, you know, you have like a high ceiling to how strong your character can be. Usually it's gradual. In this game you go up one floor and they get like 10 times HP. which just feels bad, man. It just feels bad. It makes you feel like you're not playing properly. It's like, no, your build is more than functional. It's just, they got 10 times health, so you gotta min-max, and that's not entirely fun. Builds in these kinds of games feel more impactful when you can see the improvement for like a longer period of time than just a few minutes. I see where it says 9 runs remaining. I have 9 runs left. If I don't clear this act in 9 runs, then the whole thing resets and I lose everything. Come back stronger? Yeah, how? I shouldn't need to come back stronger. It's a very functional build. It's just not dropping anything. And they get like 30 times health every time you go up a floor. Feels like the game is just trolling you when it says stuff like that. Like, clearly I'm building properly. This is a functional build. I'm not playing the game wrong. I'm not going to say I'm playing perfectly, but I'm definitely not playing it wrong. Come back stronger. How about you give them less health?
Prayers have been heard. I'm grateful for this gift.
Giving them less health would fix the problem. Anyway, this run's going to end soon because I do have to go. Change of plans here. Farthest this is gonna go is the train boss. The stat bloat is just way too high. See this? Is there any reason for him to have this much health? He's getting comboed to death, but he's an HP sponge. wonder how they're going to damage control. I think the answer is simple. Just reduce how much health they have by significant amounts, or increase damage values by enough that, you know, you can't have 10-minute boss fights anymore. I think that is the easiest way to fix it, but who knows what their stance is. But it's simply just not fun to, the game gaslights you into thinking you're playing poorly. Might be time to switch to another game. Play something else for a bit. If there's gonna be a patch this week, I wonder like exactly what it is they're going to change. I still think this run can clear, but I very well may just wait for that patch. Getting tired of the DFO HP levels. Everything has like 10 trillion health. The last boss in this game actually does have a billion HP. The developer was admitted to it. Alright, we're gonna get to the boss and then I do have to go. Sorry to cut things short. Probably gonna do no damage to the boss anyway. Oh my goodness, do you really need this much health? Look at this. Oh, man. This game goes from being fun to play to a slog, just like instantly. It's like a super fast version of like how other games work, where eventually everything just has too much health. Dynasty Warriors 9 was like that, when they added that final difficulty, where they gave everything like insane defense, so that it took like a 5-minute combo video to kill anything. You know, that was more gradual than this. This is like instant. It's like you beat a boss and then suddenly you do no damage anymore. Very strange balancing. they've gone in the hyperbolic time chamber, and now they have 30 times more HP. Quite literally, the hyperbolic time chamber is what the monsters in this game do. They train for like 100 years in the span of one day. That is exactly what they do. The health just goes to insane levels. How long is this going to take? This has a high chance of killing me. I'm gonna go ahead and do this and go back to town. Yeah, HP Sponge City. Hyperbolic time chamber. Die anytime soon. Now there's going to be a bunch of elites with a trillion health. Elites have even more HP. This health bar is going to take an hour to go down. It's like I'm clearly building right to be able to survive all this pretty well, but just have a ridiculous amount of HP. This actually does feel a lot like Dynasty Warriors 9 Final Difficulty. It's pretty much the same problem. It's like not actually hard. It's artificially hard. The problem is the run limit and the HP blow don't really work well together. Thank you for dying. Good, that's done. So let's just end it. It's gonna be 20-minute boss fights. See, doesn't that feel not satisfying to be built that well and still do no damage? Yeah, it's definitely an issue. It doesn't feel like anything is viable in this game, but just stacking as much damage as possible. But like even then it doesn't feel satisfying because they have too much. What's up, man? Unfortunately you're here at the end of the stream. My neighbor needs help. I will be back later for sure, but I do have to go. I think helping my neighbor is more productive than this game right now. Getting nothing. I don't know if that's even gonna do anything at this point. Yeah, I heard the Superman movie was pretty good. I'm not really a big movie watcher, but I've heard good things. Last movie I watched was Shin Kamen Rider, which I enjoyed. Alright, let me go ahead and level these up before I leave. Alright. Alright, folks, I gotta go. I'll be back after I do this errand for my neighbor. Catch you later. Oh, that's right. Where Winds Meet comes out tonight. I won't be able to play it right away, but when I get back from working, we're going to check out Where Winds Meet. I got to the playtest. Very curious to check it out. So that will. There should be like 2 more streams today minimum. I was gonna go for longer right now, but I kind of got an emergency with my neighbor. She really needs help. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.